Okay, Paul, episode 53. You and I are both vaccinated. And today, my son was vaccinated. They opened it up to 12 and over. He got the Pfizer shot, and so far, so good. But yeah, it seems to be coming together around here now in terms of the vaccinations.
Yeah, that certainly is great news. It is great to see that Canada's vaccination rollout is definitely starting to pick up steam. I think for the first time in a long time, there's a real sense of optimism and hope that we are maybe going to have somewhat normal summer. I certainly hope so. Things are going to be interesting over the next month. And yeah, the fact that kids as young as 12 are getting vaccinated, that's pretty cool. That should hopefully allow the kids to be back in school full time come September. I don't know if kids are going to be going back anytime soon, but...
Well, they're not going back this year. I think that's a given.
I don't think so, no. But hopefully September for sure, if all goes well. Yeah, my son, he's only 10, turns 11 next year. So yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't qualify for being able to receive a vaccination. So he's about a year and a half out. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion as to whether or not, you want to have kids vaccinated. I can understand some people maybe being resistant or hesitant to want to have children vaccinated, but...
Yeah, we were a little bit, like yesterday, he told us, actually, he came to us and said, there's a vaccination clinic at Centennial College, and can you take me there? And I was like, how did you hear about that? He said, Eva, her friend, just got vaccinated today. And I'm starting to think, oh my God, this is real. We knew there was a chance that we're going to open it up to the younger kids, but it's really different. My wife and I were saying it's different when you're deciding to take something for yourself. I'm going to do this. But when you're like, it's your child, there's this feeling of, wow, like there's this person that's, our child. And, should we think this through a little bit? Like, is there anything to be worried about? And it was a bit late in the day, so we decided, you know what, we're not going to do it today. We'll do it some other time. And then the opportunity came up today. My friend Marcelo took his son to get his vaccination, sent me a note just saying how easy it was. 2 hours later, my son got vaccinated.
So this was a pop-up clinic, right? Like you didn't have to book online?
No, it was not. There are pop-up clinics, but this one was a book. You had to book it online, but it was super easy. All I did was go on to the scarboroughvaccine.ca website. You went to the book appointment section, and you picked the place, which was Centennial College, and it showed you the various time slots in the day that were available. Like within the hour, you could go. And it said nine slots at 12:10, 12 slots at 9 at 12:20, and so on and so on. So we just booked it with enough time to get my son over there, plus a bit of time for leeway in case there was traffic. But he was, from the time he left the house and got back, it was about an hour and a half. Yeah. Wow,
that's really cool. The fact that you're able to book an appointment the same day. I know that. There's been a lot of issues with booking online appointments. Typically, it's a week to 2 weeks that you have to wait. My wife is actually going tomorrow for her vaccine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she had to wait about 10 days out in order to book an appointment.
And what's she getting? Which one?
We don't know yet. Probably Pfizer.
Yeah. And is it a pharmacy or like a clinic or?
No, it's a clinic. Like it's at one of the community centers.
All right.
Yeah. So this is through Region of Durham.
It does feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think you said those words a few minutes ago. And I do feel like things are coming together. More people that I know are getting vaccinated. But I'm still not going to really feel this until we get our lockdown lifted. Like we're still in this lockdown as a province until the second week of June or first week of June. And until restaurants start opening up, it's not going to feel to me like we're getting any sense of normal.
Exactly. Yeah. It's, June 2nd is the date that...
if it doesn't get extended.
I don't think it will. I don't think so. I think the numbers support reopening, and I think there's other factors at play as well. I think if the government were to extend it even further, I have a feeling I think it'll be political suicide for them as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I think people are going to start getting, start revolting and things like that. But yeah, hopefully not. But I mean, it would be nice if they could also open up some activities like golf and tennis and things that to me are a little bit odd that these things are restricted. But
and what's interesting to note is that other parts of Canada are certainly reopening. Definitely Quebec. In Quebec, a headline that caught my interest was that tomorrow's, I don't think they're hosting tomorrow, but I think one of the upcoming Montreal Canadiens playoff home dates, they are allowing up to 2,500 spectators in the arena.
I saw that. Yeah.
So that's huge to be able to finally allow spectators
indoors too.
Indoors.
Yeah.
That's a big game changer. No pun intended.
Yeah. So the Leafs are playing the Canadiens tomorrow in Game 1 of the first round, right?
Yeah, and I believe it's the first 2 games would be in Toronto, and then it switches to Montreal.
Oh, it's not in Montreal this game? The first game?
No.
And they're doing it indoors in Toronto? Or is it the one that's in Montreal?
The game in Montreal, which I believe would likely be Game 3. Yeah, probably Game 3.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how it goes. But this morning, you and I were chatting about, you sent me a picture, as we've talked about before. We will send each other topic ideas, or we get topic ideas from people, and then we'll talk about them throughout the week and say, hey, this might make a good topic. Well, you sent me a picture of, it looked like a tree stump with a bunch of figurines or dolls and a few other things on it. And this is something you said you encountered during your run, or have encountered during your run. And I thought, let's just spend a couple of minutes, because, you know, you do see these memorials sometimes around, like on the roads. Maybe someone was injured or killed in a car crash. But this particular memorial, or whatever it is something you've seen on your run. And it doesn't appear to actually be a memorial, but maybe more of a symbolic to something. So why don't you explain to the listeners what this thing is that you have passed several times, once before. Tell us what this thing is. Describe it for us.
Yeah, I've passed this thing many times, and it's kind of unusual. Like it's really sort of piqued my interest because, as mentioned, yes, it's on my regular running route. So I run past this thing probably 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending.
All right, tell us what this thing is.
And it's okay. So what it is, it's a tree stump. So the park that I run through, there's a tree that was taken down last year. Maybe it was struck by lightning, or it was just taken down because it was a dead tree or something. Yeah, it looks
kind of rotted out. And we'll post a picture of this in the show notes, and I've also added a new feature where I can put pictures on the chapters. So if you're listening to this on a phone or an iPad, I don't know if it'll work on Spotify, but it'll work on Apple Podcasts. You should be able to see a picture of this. It might make it a little more interesting for those that are following along. But sorry, continue. Dead stump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think you have to see the photo here to really understand the bizarre nature of this thing. Anyway, yeah, it's a tree stump, and it has sort of evolved over the last, couple weeks, couple months, I suppose.
Like more things keep getting added to it, or?
Exactly. More things keep getting added to this, and it's rather bizarre because I really don't know what the point of this. I'm assuming it's some kind of a memorial. I really don't know what the point of it is, because
explain what's there, though. Just tell me some of the items that you see. I see some painted rocks.
Yeah, okay. So painted rocks, and which is fine. Those are pretty common these days. But there's like a stuffy attached, like a stuffed animal attached to
It's a dinosaur or something. It's a red dinosaur that's slung by its neck.
Yeah, it's even more bizarre.
It looks like a towel that's tied around the neck of this red dinosaur with... looks like a Godzilla kind of thing, red. Mm-hmm. I see a Jungle Book, the Jungle Book, like the book,
actual
Disney's
book.
Jungle Book.
Yeah, there's like some toys here, like a a Jeep and an army man. And then there's some kind of a plaque with this couple, Dennis and Diane. I don't know who they are. Like a 50th wedding anniversary, which, okay, but not really sure what the significance of having this plaque mounted on this old, roughed out tree stump. This is bizarre. I'm sort of at a loss for words, because every time I run past this thing, more and more things get added to it, and I'm just wondering how far will this go. I'm just wondering if other people are adding to this, or if it's just one couple or one person that is created this thing. It is bizarre, and I should say that this is not to pass judgment on memorials, because I know that many times you see them on the side of roads to obviously signify perhaps a tragic event that happened. Yes. Maybe someone was killed in a car accident, and I hope to never have to experience that kind of grief. So this is not to pass judgment on any of those. I'm just pointing this one out because this doesn't make any sense. There is no significance. There's no historical significance to this tree stump or to this particular location.
I wonder if it's, maybe this couple met by this tree when they were young, and then maybe when they saw the tree had come down, there was some reason to memorialize the tree. I don't know.
I don't know. This is so bizarre. As I said, it is just bizarre looking. And it just kind of begs the question as to how far people go in terms of signifying or memorializing or making monuments to certain things. Like, I know it's kind of on a related topic, but
that's reminding me of our statue episode now that you mention it.
Yeah, and I don't want to get down into the whole political realm. That's a discussion in itself. But one of the things that is sort of a related topic is people that throw pennies in fountains. I've never been able to figure that out. I guess
you've never
it's
done
a good
that?
luck. Not really. It's sort of an inside joke between sort of within our family is that, the money that you throw in the fountains goes to the cleaning staff. That's why I've never really thrown coins in there before. But yeah, it's interesting how certain things and I guess people kind of copy each other, like the whole thing with the decorative stones last year. That was a phenomenon that really took off, and I know that was sort of created out of the whole pandemic and
right, to just bring some cheer into people's lives. Yeah, just bring some cheer.
But that was another thing that suddenly that craze or phenomenon just kind of exploded, and next thing you know, within a few weeks, like there's these decorative stones everywhere. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I think people just kind of copy onto an idea or it looks like several people have added to this tree stump, and I don't really understand the point of it.
I don't know. I thought it was.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I wonder if you can do a little bit of digging around and see if you can get some more information. Like if you maybe just ask some people in the neighborhood, hey, have you ever seen that tree stump? Dennis and Diane, 50th wedding anniversary. It would be interesting to see how they selected these various items to memorialize their anniversary or whatever it is.
I'll have to do some research on this, but in the meantime, it might be interesting to be on the lookout for some other weird stuff out there. Yeah. Yeah, and don't take me wrong, I'm not complaining about it. I just found it odd and bizarre, and I just had to take a photo. It was just weird.
Let's move into, we're going to do something a little different this time, in that we do most often talk about a strange news story, and you and I have talked about one element of this story, which we'll talk about in a second, but I just saw this article over the weekend and thought we should talk about, first, it's a bit of a bizarre story, and secondly, the way this person has chosen to address this issue that happened to them is interesting. So let me just jump into it. So the headline is, Woman Wakes to Blood Dripping from Ceiling of Apartment in Texas. A woman in Texas said she was woken by blood and other bodily fluids dripping from her ceiling. Anna Cardenas said on a GoFundMe post that the person in the apartment above hers had died. Apparently, there was a body that had not been discovered for days and started to decompose. Bodily fluids started leaking from my ceiling, contaminating all my personal belongings. Bed furniture, clothes, sheets, much more are now destroyed and had to be thrown away. So and then the fan was apparently running at the time. God, this is gruesome. Fan was running at the time, and as the dripping was coming down, it was making everything fly all over the place. So she even had a medical exam to make sure she wasn't infected with anything. So she has set up a GoFundMe fundraiser, which will go toward temporary shelter and replacing her clothing and other personal items that were ruined. By Friday, the total had reached more than $9,400, nearly twice the original goal. She was apparently trying to get some compensation from the manager of the apartment complex, but they weren't responding to her for whatever reason. So she sets up a GoFundMe page, which has more than doubled. In fact, I looked at it earlier today. It was at over $11,000. I guess the first question I have is, what makes her feel that she should collect from the general public compensation for this? Is it no other options and she's just going to give it a try? And should she go to the general public to collect the ability to compensate herself? Those are the two first questions, and I have a follow-up, but let's just start with those.
Yeah, the whole debate about the GoFundMe pages, and this is something that we've kind of kicked around as a sort of a topic idea for a while, because one thing that always surprises me about these GoFundMe pages is that people are very generous. Very generous to the point where there is definitely a lot of causes or I guess requests for funds that either are bizarre or sort of probably well, at least in my opinion, would be somewhat frivolous, but somehow they work. People do donate money to these causes or to certain requests. And the fact that this woman has received $11,000 so far, that's actually kind of remarkable. I think maybe some people could have donated just because it was such a bizarre story. But yeah, you're right. It is an interesting question you pose, in that why should the general public have to pay for this? Why should the general public be, trying to...
Well, they shouldn't have to. They're not.
Yeah,
she isn't saying... But she isn't saying they shouldn't have to. They should have to. She's saying, I'm going to put this out there and hope someone will give me money to compensate me.
No, exactly. And what I was going to say is that, yes, I think a lot of people sort of throw out these requests in the sense that, maybe other people will kind of bail them out. But it works, though. The fact that she's raised $11,000 means that obviously there's enough people out there that believe her story and can, I guess, sympathize with what she's going through. It certainly sounds very bizarre. I think that, I'm no means a coroner or a doctor or anything like that, but I would think that if you had a body upstairs that was decomposing, you'd be smelling that, several days before you start to see bodily fluids. Just the thought of that is just disgusting. But anyway, yeah, there is definitely a lot of weird requests on GoFundMe pages, and I did a little research on this as well in terms of. Well,
before you go into it, I want to ask a question about this. So she asked for $5,000, and now it's up to $11,000. Do you feel that she should just continue to let donations trickle in, or that she should shut it off? Her goal was reached. She's now more than doubled it. That's another element to this. Like, now she's just going to sit there and keep collecting. Yeah. Why doesn't she shut it down if she's already got the money she wanted?
But I guess if people are continuing to make that decision to continue to donate, then I guess the question is, why should she have to shut it down? Because I don't think I would be, I for one have never donated money to GoFundMe pages, but if there's somebody out there that is, I would like to think would be educated enough and would sort of read through it and research which causes or requests they want to donate their hard-earned money to, I would think that if somebody has already reached their target, why would you continue to donate money? So if somebody wants to donate money to her, then I guess it's their decision. But yeah, she should probably be taking down that request if she's already
like, is
got
she
the
getting
money that she
greedy
needs.
now?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, probably.
Well,
and, I've always thought, yeah, that's a great question about once these charities or causes reach their target. A lot of times the money collected goes above and beyond anyone's wildest expectations. And I've often thought, what do you do with that money? Like, where does that go? And
I can understand it for things like, it's say you're raising money for cancer or like that sort of thing. And you might set a goal just to set a target and that goes over. I think that's a little bit different. But if you're trying to raise some money to, replace some personal belongings, as she says, bed, furniture, some clothes, sheets, and a few other things, probably repaint the apartment. But, you asked for $5,000 and now it's at over $11,000. It's just, is it getting kind of to a point where it's greedy, or was her, damages $15,000 and she thought, I'll just ask for $5 because if I say 15, it won't generate any interest, or it'll seem too outrageous or something.
If people are suckers enough to want to keep donating to her, then hey, just let them.
But is that the right word, sucker? Like, is it?
Well, I don't know, maybe. Like, as mentioned, I was doing a little bit of research here in terms of some of the what they call, quote unquote, the dumb requests that have been featured on GoFundMe page. There has been requests in the past for people soliciting for booze money. They want to have a bender of a weekend and they need someone to help fund that. People requesting money to attend concerts. There's quite a few people, like the Burning Man Festival. People requesting money because they want to attend a concert or festival or movie projects. People asking for requests to fund their vacations or to fund birthday parties or weddings or gaming systems. Like, why anyone would want to donate to something that frivolous? There comes a point where it's like, no, you need to be responsible for something like that on your own. Why should anyone have to pay for any kind of leisure activities? But people are stupid enough to donate to this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it.
So if we set up a GoFundMe page, like for the We Talked About This GoFundMe page, and we talked about this as a podcast about various topics from men's fashion to travel to various current events and all sorts of little things, weird news stories. We need money to keep the cause alive. Please donate to us. I have this feeling like nobody would give us any money.
You'd be surprised. Hey, if we start up a GoFundMe page saying that we have to take the show on the road, we have to do a live podcast session, you might be surprised as to what we would get.
There's a good 30-day challenge, perhaps. 30 days. We'll put up a GoFundMe page and see how much money we can raise toward our We Talked About This tour.
Yeah.
Road show.
Yeah. Also, some interesting facts that I think we should mention here. With respect to GoFundMe, and there is other fundraising sites out there. It's not just GoFundMe. There's websites called Fundly, Kickstarter, CrowdRise. But
Kickstarter is more for, I think, business. Like if you're trying to create a product.
Starting businesses, But when we're just talking about just GoFundMe in itself, over a 10-year period, because I believe they started back in 2010, they have raised over $9 billion on their platform. $9 billion in donations. Wow. So the website receives over $140 million in donations per month.
Do they take a cut of the action? I have to think they do.
Okay, that's a good question. They used to take a 5% cut, but they did not. They are no longer doing that.
Yeah.
I think they receive revenue by way of donations to the actual site itself. Like people can tip them.
Well, that makes sense, I guess.
And
Go fund us.
Yeah, and I think there's like a transaction charge when you actually donate the money. So I guess that's how they do it.
Yeah, it says here, GoFundMe charges 2.9% plus 30 cents on charity campaigns to cover its own processing costs and PayPal's transaction fees. GoFundMe does not charge a platform fee, and there are no PayPal giving fund fees. So, yeah, okay. Yeah. So they're not taking a cut of the action.
No, I guess technically they're not.
2.9%, I guess, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, that seems. Why is that a processing fee?
Still, you figure 2.9% over $140 million per month. That's still a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Did you know that the largest fund, the largest amount collected for an individual fund was actually the George Floyd Memorial Fund, and that raised over $14.5 million.
Wow.
So that was a fund. Then obviously there was a lot of emotions and obviously some political reasoning behind that. But the fund that was originally set up for George Floyd's family to be able to fund, I guess, education funds for his own children, that raised $14.5 million. The Humboldt Broncos, that was the hockey team, the tragic bus crash, I believe it was 3 years ago in Saskatchewan. It made a lot of headlines here in Canada. There was a GoFundMe page for the families of the players who were impacted by this tragic bus crash. That raised $11 million.
Yeah.
So these are examples of some causes that far way exceeded their target amounts. And it begs the question as to when a lot of these funds go way above what their targets were, what do they do with the money? Like what happens at that point? And who administers that? If you have, $11 million, let's say for the Broncos, that's a lot of money. That's a huge responsibility for whoever the person is that's administering the funds that come into the GoFundMe page. There is instances where sometimes these things can be too successful, and you have an incredible amount of money that's donated. Well, and I mean, it makes you wonder what happens to it.
I guess it comes down to how. Like, what are you getting compensated for? There seems like this has, it's got an opportunistic element to it. And I don't mean to be negative, because that tragedy with the bus crash, for instance, was horrible. I mean, how many kids died in that crash?
I think it was 17, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah. But I guess it's people's right to try to raise money for something, and if it raises $800,000 or it raises 11 or 12 million, I guess that's just I could say that's capitalism for you, but it's an interesting thing, because George Floyd, 14.6 million, target was 1.5. Okay, so it says here it was to benefit and care of his children and their educational fund. I don't know. I don't want to be insensitive, but it's just an interesting. I guess it's a free country. It's a free country, and if somebody wants to raise money for something, there shouldn't be a cap on it, I guess.
I guess not. Nobody's twisting anyone's arm. If people make the effort or make the deliberate action of going onto these GoFundMe sites and decide to continue to donate to some of these charities that have far exceeded their target, then I guess you have to understand the fact that you are donating money and you're not sure as to where exactly that money is going to go now that the target has been achieved. I think people just perhaps want to buy into a particular cause. I can certainly understand that with the whole everything that went on last year with George Floyd, that was very politically charged, and as I said, a lot of emotions were high on that one. An interesting one that kind of jumped out at me, there's another another GoFundMe site called We the People Build the Wall. And that raised $25 million. And this was for private donations to continue the efforts to build the wall between the U.S. and Mexico, to carry on what I guess Donald Trump wasn't able to accomplish. But yeah, there's people that felt that strongly that they are donating money to finish the completion of this wall.
So this is the record. This has the most donations, I think, out of all the GoFundMes, right?
Yeah.
25 million.
I think so. Yeah. So yeah, $25 million was raised for private donations to continue construction of the wall.
It's a spotlight on a few things,
Yeah.
Cultural, political, tragic, and it's kind of a little bit of a pot of life, in a sense, of a snapshot of life and human behavior and the things that happen.
Yeah, it seems like the ones like the GoFundMe pages that have a political nature to it, or I guess those are the ones that have the most intense emotions behind it, that would fuel the donations. So yeah, you're right. It speaks volumes, the fact that, I guess a request for funds that is very, very political in nature, that seems to be the one that has garnered the most amount of donations. Yeah. So there you go.
As we have talked about on a few episodes now, we've been delving into the childhood dreams of various people that have been on the show. In the last episode, Salim shared a couple of his childhood dreams, and I shared my dream about wanting to be a TV anchorman. When we talked about your childhood dream, I feel something was left on the table. And that while you did say in that episode that, you'd always wanted to be a lawyer, and that you were headed to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were headed to university with this intent. But I feel like that didn't really cut it as far as I was concerned. That you had to have had some childhood dreams that were more than, I want to be a lawyer. So tell me, let's talk about this for a second. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I got to say, Clark, you really do sound like a journalist here. I
am a journalist.
You're acting out through your childhood dreams right now by asking some tough questions in the interview period.
That's why I have this podcast.
Yeah,
so I can scratch that itch. We talked about that.
Yeah, Peter Jennings would be very proud of you right now.
He would.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me really, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Oh boy, I don't know. Are
you afraid to tell me, or are you?
No, I'm just. I don't think there's any one thing that really jumped out at me. Okay, so as a kid, I enjoyed baseball. Maybe at a certain point, there was always a dream of, being a baseball player. But realistically, I knew that would never happen because I was never good enough to be playing on any rep baseball teams or anything like that. But I guess the one thing that maybe I could revisit here is politics. So as a kid, I've always had a keen interest in politics, and especially U.S. history, probably around the age of 8. This is probably a weird fact that I'm about to divulge to our listeners here, but I am very well versed in U.S. presidential history. As mentioned, I've known this pretty much since the age of 8. So in terms of childhood dreams, I would say that perhaps there was a dream, I wouldn't say a dream, but certainly a keen interest to maybe get involved in politics. Being a Canadian, obviously that focus would be, I guess really my only avenue would be Canadian politics, to maybe one day run for political office. And that's something that I've always had a lifelong interest in politics, and hey, you never say never. in terms of...
So what is it about that you like? Because I think a little bit of it from my experience of wanting to be an anchorman was I just liked the way it looked, like seeing the person on TV looking important and speaking about serious matters and having a good voice and looking official. Like, I mean, what is it about politics that you were drawn to? Was it that, seeing the guys making speeches or the women making speeches? Like, what was it that you specifically liked that attracted you to that? Power?
Yeah, I guess kind of the same thing. I guess when you look at politics, especially more so in the U.S., where there's a lot of movies about U.S. presidents, and there's this whole, I guess, this aura about U.S. politics, and politicians are kind of raised to a pedestal. Maybe not so much these last couple of years with everything going on in U.S. politics. I think things have changed a lot since, well, I guess we're going back to the 1980s. But yeah, in the time that I grew up as a kid, it's something that you, I guess maybe you idolize that style of life. When you had presidents like Ronald Reagan, someone that I had admired as a kid, when you have those types of politicians, you look back at it and it's kind of maybe romanticized a little bit. Yeah. Things change a lot when you're an adult and you can sort of take away the rose-colored glasses, and you can, you can see politics for a lot of the, a lot of the lies, corruption, and a lot of the bullshit that goes on with it. Again, especially with the last couple of years with both Canadian and U.S. politics, there's been a lot of controversies and a lot of colorful personalities, that type of thing, without getting too much into the political quagmire here.
Well, I think this is a theme I've noticed in the people on the show that have talked about their childhood dreams. I know for me, it was like, what was the job versus what we thought the job was. So the idea, like if you look at Salim, he wanted to be a lifeguard because he watched Baywatch and saw them booting around on ATVs and Sea-Doos or whatever, Sea-Doos, bombing around and looking good and being out in the nice weather, California sun.
Yep.
But what was it really? He also wanted to be a pilot, and was it the way that the person who piloted the plane looked? An official person in a uniform. A lot of kids want to be uniformed careers, like police officer, fireman. So even in this political one, I don't think you were thinking about, I want to create policy, I want to help enact laws, or maybe you did.
No, but I think you're on the right track when you say that a lot of times, childhood dreams are created because of movies or TV shows that you watch that sort of elevate certain professions. They come across as being very dignified and kind of cool. I mentioned before about when I had expressed an interest in being a lawyer. A lot of that was because I watched a lot of legal shows like Law and Order and Matlock and stuff like that. Being a lawyer seemed pretty cool on TV. Can be very different in real life. When it comes to politics, there's a lot of movies and TV shows about politics and presidents. I can see, what Salim's comments about, watching Baywatch. Obviously that's that would be something that would create a lot of interest in being a lifeguard. I think I read somewhere that when the movie Top Gun came out in the mid 1980s, apparently there was a huge boom in recruitment for the U.S. forces. I guess the Navy specifically, because after everyone watched this movie, they felt that they had to be the next Maverick. So it's interesting how movies and TV shows can definitely influence, people's thought processes and where they want to take their careers. And for those people that are able to do that, that are that passionate about their careers and truly fulfill them, then that's great. They're very lucky people. You and I are in industry. You and I are both in the insurance industry, and I don't think many people would say that that's been a dream to be in the insurance industry, but I think it's certainly a good career, and I have no regrets to what I've done throughout my career.
Well, I saw my father go to work every day in a suit and a nice car. Mm-hmm. And I will say that at some point in my childhood, probably more toward adolescence and into teenage years, I saw the image of that as something I wanted to do.
Sure. Absolutely.
Wear a suit to work and drive a nice car and, be on the phone sounding like something important was going on.
Yeah.
Having an office. He had an office. Going into a 75-floor office tower and having a lunchroom with coffee and snacks and a vending machine. These were things, again, what it looked like. And then looking in the office and seeing other people dressed up in suits. And then there was the C-suite. You don't like that term. But, but I remember when I was working in the office, in the mailroom, I would always go by the proverbial C-suite, and I'd look in and I'd see the nice offices, and again I'd be like enthralled with these were the super successful part of the organization, and they're in these even nicer. We used to joke that it was the green carpet because that part of the office had nicer and softer carpet than everywhere else. So you started envisioning, well, I want that. These people probably make a lot of money and they have nice carpet, they have nice offices. So, but until I got into the actual job, I had no idea what they really did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, but you're right. It's all about the image that certain jobs portray. And it's a great example that, with your dad who in the insurance industry, that's something to strive for. The fact that, working in a building downtown, and as a kid, that seems so exciting. And I often wonder, as parents of young kids ourselves, it makes you wonder as to what direction your kids are going to go in. What their dreams are.
Well, have you ever talked to your kids about that? Like, if they ever, you have one kid, but
yeah. Well, my son has expressed an interest in being an architect. Architect, okay. Maybe a pilot.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah. Keep those dreams going.
So I looked up here America's top 20 childhood dream jobs, and I won't go through the whole list, but doctor, teacher, veterinarian, musician, movie star, professional athlete.
Yep.
Architect is on the list.
Okay.
Firefighter, superhero, police officer.
Superhero.
Race car driver. Top childhood dreams for American women. Teacher, doctor, veterinarian, movie star, writer, artist, fashion designer, musician, business owner, chef. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. I don't think there's anything there that surprises me.
Here's something. 67% of Americans have failed to fulfill their childhood dream jobs. 58% of them wish they had, and 82% aren't pursuing them at all as adults. So that kind of goes back to the original thought we had around this topic, Paul, was, would we be happier had we pursued the jobs we really thought were our dream jobs as kids? And how much regret do we have by not pursuing? You did not become a politician. How do you feel about that today? Do you wish you had gone down that road?
Yeah, that's a great question. The $1 million question. No, I don't think I have regrets. I don't think I'm missing out by not being a politician or anything like that. I'm happy with where my career has gone. Obviously, yes, there is certain things that, you may change here or there. But I'm not in a position to complain. Let's put it that way. I'm not going
right.
to sit here and say, oh, poor me, and my dreams are unfulfilled. I'm very fortunate to consider myself lucky in life that I have a good job and I'm able to, afford, I guess, good things in life and for you. And hopefully you feel that same way as well. But I don't feel as if I've, missed out on life or anything like that. I guess maybe it's because some of my dreams weren't necessarily ironclad. There's desires in terms of what you want to do when you grow up. But then there's passions. And let's say if you were a competitive baseball player and your true dream and passion was to play professional baseball, then I think that's a whole different level in itself. That's a true, one might argue, a calling. Whether it's baseball, hockey, or whatever it might be. If for you, I think if you truly had that desire and that calling to be a journalist, I think you would have found a way to do it. That's the way I view it.
Well, that's a question, right?
Yeah.
If we did, is the reason we don't pursue a childhood dream because we just weren't that passionate about it? Like, did we, if it was meant to be, would we have made it happen? I think the answer is, for some people, yes.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I think if something is that important to you, then you will find a way to do it, or at least try to get yourself in a position where you get at least close to that dream. Whether it's going to school for journalism or getting an internship. Yeah, dreams, not all dreams are going to come together. Not every dream is going to come true, but I think as long as, to some people, as long as they can say that they tried their best and they made an effort towards achieving that dream, rather than give up on it completely. But I think, it all depends on the desire, how bad you want it. For me, I guess I didn't really want to be a lawyer that bad. I thought I did, but maybe once I kind of gave more thought to it, I realized that there's maybe some other options out there. Mm-hmm. And I certainly have no regrets about not being a lawyer, because there's a lot of unglamorous parts of that job. It really all depends on what it is. I think it all depends on what your passion is and where your talents are.
What we're watching, or listening to, or reading is the segment we're going to talk about now. I've been listening recently to a podcaster named Jocko Willink. And Jocko Willink is a retired Navy SEAL. He was actually a naval officer with the Navy SEALs. Talk about intense. This guy has seen a lot of terrible things in his travels. He was in Afghanistan and Iraq, I believe. And he's quite an interesting character, a lot of energy. He consults to the business community, uses, I guess, a lot of his military experience to talk about business and strategy. And he's also an author. He's written a few books, including a couple children's books. But his weekly podcast is called the Jocko Podcast, and it gets like millions of listeners. He's been on, I think it was Tim Ferriss who launched his career, basically said, you should have a podcast. And so he started one. And I think I found him very inspiring. So that's my current, what I'm listening to is the Jocko Podcast.
I find it interesting for such an intense guy who has served in the military that he's written children's books.
Well, yeah. So he's got one of the books called Way of the Warrior Kid, and it's about kids who, it's about a kid who's being bullied at school, and he's not good at math, and he's struggling, and so his uncle comes to visit one summer, and the uncle is basically Jocko, and he sort of mentors this kid and gives him alternative ways of dealing with his stress helps him find solutions to his problems. So it's nice. I actually bought the book for my son. Unfortunately, he lost it in Japan. We were on a vacation, and he lost it. So he got through about halfway through it. But it's actually a really cool book. But yeah, that's the basis of the children's book.
So the podcast in general, what is that? What kind of topics does he tackle? It's kind of a mix of different things. He's got a guy with him on it called Echo, who I think was in his platoon, or who also served time with him. And so they just talk about leadership, and he's a very passionate guy in that he's got a soft side to him. Like, as tough as the guy is, he reads, he's not your sort of jock. I call him Jocko, but he's not your, he's very sensitive. So he talks about fitness and nutrition and leadership. And so it's a wide variety of topics. But he's pretty inspiring, because he's seen so much horrible stuff, and it's just an interesting perspective that he gives. It sounds pretty interesting, and I guess obviously you'll include that link within the show notes, so anyone who is interested in checking that out, it sounds pretty cool. For me, I am talking about a show that I'm watching right now. It's called Mare of Easttown, and it stars Kate Winslet. It's a mini-series. I believe it's 7 episodes altogether. It's an HBO TV show. But I'm watching
Mare, M-A-R-E, not Mayor.
Yeah, M-A-R-E, yeah.
So what is Mare, like as in the horse?
No, so the character's name is Mare, M-A-R-E.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it kind of makes sense once you watch the show.
Okay.
But yeah, it's 7 episodes, and I think we've gone through 5 so far. You
said HBO?
HBO, but it can be watched through Crave.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, the show is about... Kate Winslet plays a police detective. It takes place in like a rural Pennsylvania town, kind of a down and out, kind of, like a coal miner town. And it has to do with sort of like some murder mystery, it's sort of like a true crime type of component to it. I don't want to give away really any kind of plot lines here, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But yeah, there's some twists and turns there, and there's some interesting characters, some characters that you like, some that you don't like. I will say this: it's not a feel-good show.
So it's not something you're going to get a pick-me-up from?
No, it's not a pick-me-up. It can be a little intense, but it is a good drama. It is a good drama. So anyone who likes drama in true crime stories, check it out. It's I enjoy it. I think most people would.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. We're closing in on an hour, and we had another topic that I think we'll just share next time. In fact, we can maybe give a little preview of it. We wanted to talk a little bit about our purchasing during COVID. Are you spending more money than you were pre-pandemic? Is there a false sense of security in that? I've heard a few people say, well, we're not going on vacation, or we're not buying clothes as much, so we're going to do this, we're going to buy that. And I've often wondered, has anyone really done the math on that? Like, are they really coming out ahead? Or are they actually, in some cases, maybe spending more money? So we're going to delve into that a little bit on a future episode.
Yeah, and any listeners who want to chime in on this, you're more than welcome to do so. Send an email to us. I'd like to know what other people are experiencing, because that's a great question. I've asked that question many times over the last few months as to, how our spending has been affected with COVID. Are we spending more? Are we spending less? Are we being responsible in what we're spending? What are we spending money on? For myself personally, it's a lot of home improvements, home decor updates. So yeah, it's interesting to know what are people spending money on.
That's a good one. So if people want to get a hold of us, they can email us at wetalkedabouttthis99@gmail.com. You can also visit our website at wetalkedaboutthis.net. And you can also visit our Twitter page, We Talked Podcast. And I also wanted to share our sponsor, Pace Painting, Inc. Peter at Pace Painting he's a great painter. He's done work for me in our house. He's done, I think, some work for you on the outside of your house.
Yep.
And he's done work for lots of friends and family. And I just wanted to give him a shout out. Normally I put a little commercial that I insert into the episode, but I thought I would do it live just like this. Peter's available at paintwithpace@gmail.com, or give him a call at 289-356-7744. That's Pace Painting Inc. Give Peter a call. He does great work, very reasonable prices, and very reliable guy. All right. Well, have a good one.